Untitled.
Hi guys, welcome. If you guys can start to make your way to your seats so we can get the panel started, please. Hi guys. Welcome, welcome. If you can make it your way to your seats so we can start the panel. We'll bring you up. Yep. Yeah, we need the panel. Okay, guys, we're going to get the panel started now. If you can make your way to your seats, we can't have anybody standing at the back of the room because we have a Zoom audience. Okay, guys, let's make our way to our seats so we can kick off our panel. Thank you so much for coming tonight. All right, guys, let's make our way to our seats so we can kick off our awesome panel tonight. Just as a reminder, we need everybody to be seated because we do have a Zoom audience as well. Welcome, welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. Let's take our seats so we can start. Okay, guys, we're going to get started. Please take your seats. Sunk it. Okay, guys, hi. Welcome to our monthly meeting. If you guys don't know who I am Maya Roffler. I am the membership director here at TIE Atlanta. I think I know most of you, so welcome, welcome. We are really excited tonight to be at another in-person event. Super excited. We do have our audience zooming in as well, so please keep in mind as you go to the back to grab food, drinks, or if you need to step out of the room, we need to keep this area clear. We will be taking questions at the end from our virtual audience first, and then we'll hand it over to you guys. Today, our panel is about product market fit. I'm sure all of you already know that. But before we start, I'd like to call up our president, Sid Mukherjee, to talk a little bit about Thai Atlanta and kick it off from there. Sid.
Thai Atlanta provides mentoring, education, funding, and access to up-and-coming entrepreneurs to late-stage companies that are getting ready to exit. From our award-winning youth program for middle school, high school, and university students to our investment arm, Thai Atlanta Angels, the fastest-growing angel investment group in the Southeast, to our growth stage program, Council of Board Advisors, each program meets the entrepreneur where they are. Our events such as the monthly meetings, to workshops, to the annual ThaiCon Atlanta conference, Thai Atlanta offers something for everyone in their entrepreneurial journey. We are a part of the Thai Global Network, the largest entrepreneur organization in the world with 15,000 members in 61 chapters across 14 countries. Thai is the place to be for mentoring, education, and networking for entrepreneurs in all stages and industries. Welcome to Thai Atlanta.
All right. So good evening and welcome to Thai Atlanta's March monthly meeting. It's great to be here in person to see everybody. So a little bit about Thai. So Thai is an organization which is a worldwide organization which is built entirely to foster entrepreneurship, right? So first of all, we have networking events like this monthly meeting. We also have workshops, we have happy hours and many such. And if you are a charter member, then you also have the opportunity to actually participate in exclusive charter member socials where you get to meet a really select group of people. So if you are here for the first time, definitely consider becoming a charter member. So other than networking, Thai also supports entrepreneurs in other ways. So we actually have a very active angel program. So just today, right before this meeting, we had probably about 20 angels participating in a pitch from a company out of Austin, growing actually at an average of 30% month over month for the past 6 months. So those are the kinds of opportunities if you are looking for investing, or if you are a startup that is looking for investments as well. And then there is also the Council of Board Advisors, or the COBA program, which is built to actually help companies which are looking to scale from, $2 to $5 million and stuck there and looking to get to the next level. And we provide essentially an advisory board for that. So if you are somebody that needs help there, we can help there too. And then lots of programs for supporting entrepreneurs who are younger. So we have a Thai high school program, we have a Thai university program, which actually have been big successes, and they're worldwide as well. And we also, by the way, also have a 501c3 not-for-profit Thai foundation, which supports the young entrepreneurs as well as minority investments and grants through what we call the Access program. So I want to say that, even though there is a lot of information I gave you, just kind of talking about it, it's only true if we are able to prove that, right? I mean, what are the outcome of things like that? So one of our panelists today is Nandan Sheth. So Nandan is a star. Okay, he is a person that was president of Thai Atlanta back in 2007. Yes, and he founded a company called AccuLink, which he grew and eventually sold to First Data. First Data was acquired by Pfizer, and then he did such a fantastic job that Pfizer kept him on as head of strategy and head of their Carrot program for several years. Every year I would talk to Nandan and he would say, I got those golden handcuffs even bigger and bigger and bigger. And recently he left Pfizer. He is CEO of a publicly traded company called Splitit. So thank you for being here. The other person I want to call out is, again, one of our own. Yeah. Animesh Koratna. So Animesh actually was a graduate of our Thai high school program. So he did that back in a few years ago, 5-6 years ago. And then he's a smart guy. He comes from pretty good background. His dad is Gopal, who is a successful entrepreneur himself. So Animesh joined Stanford, this little school on the West Coast you must have heard about. And then he went there, and instead of finishing up, he said, I would rather do a startup. And he has started this company which is focused on testing, growing at a fabulous rate, getting great attention from West Coast, Silicon Valley investors, raised fabulous rounds, and recently pivoted into where in real time it identifies where your specific application might be providing problems and reduces debugging time from several days to maybe a few minutes. So lots of great things ahead for Animesh. Congratulations as well. There are many, many others. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I just want to kind of point out two superstars in this room today, and there are many, many others. But I wanted to do that because if you are new to this program, new to TIE, I wanted you to be aware of the quality of people that come to these events, and I'd love for you to be a member as well. So with that, once again, a warm welcome to you. And there are a few more things that we want to talk about. Over to you.
Thank you, Sid. So moving on with all the program that we have going on. If you're a member, if you're a non-member, engage with us on social. We have a YouTube channel where we actually upload all this content. So Sid's point, as an entrepreneur that's growing and you're looking to get resources and looking to connect with subject matter experts, if you're not here tonight and you want to share the story with a friend or let them know to take advantage of a specific resource or a specific entrepreneur that articulated, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have workshops that are ran and driven by our sponsors, and then obviously monthly meeting settings and workshops as well. If you did not know, Sid touched on this from the 501c3. If you're a female and you're a minority entrepreneur and you're looking to get access to capital, obviously as someone that's growing a company, capital is number one, but we do even better. We actually bring together the subject matter expert, the resources in our community to really mentor and coach you as a company and then get you to a place where then you can get invested. So this is year 3 of our fund. So it is a fund. We actually do grants and dollars. So if you're a minority female and looking to get access to capital and mentors, please apply. Information is on our website, but you can reach out to myself, Maya, Sebastian, Dr. Lopez, Sid Mukherjee. We have a lot of mentors here in the room that can give you some clarity on this. But we're excited about this program. This is going to be one of our showcases in the next upcoming year. So if you're interested, please apply. If you have any questions, please ask. Lastly, look, this is our calendar. It's going to be posted at every event that you come to. So as a member, please take advantage. We kind of go through the evolution of entrepreneurship, as Sid mentioned. We start off with startups, and we're going to be going into product and scale. So if you are interested in joining, please reach out to Maya or myself, and we'll get you engaged. And without further ado, we're going to go and get the panel started. I'm going to go introduce Tom. So Tom, if you want to come up, and panelists, if you want to come up as well, and we'll go and get Angela on the screen. But Tom has been a sponsor with TIE Atlanta for over 6 years. He's helped multiple entrepreneurs through acquisitions, mergers, and helping them drive wealth strategy. He has been involved in the startup community and the scaling community and the exits community for a very long time. He's someone that I look to whenever I need phenomenal speakers. He's helped a lot of folks through transactions. But again, one of the things that hits a chord with our organization and what Tom does is that he genuinely wants to support entrepreneurs. Because of his thought leadership and him seeing the multiple transactions, he brings a lot of value to you as an entrepreneur that's looking to scale up and then figure out what your exit strategy looks like. So as mentioned, we love having partners like Merrill Lynch and Tom be part of the organization, and excited for him to drive the panel today. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Wow, I need you to come with me everywhere I go, by the way, to give me that kind of introduction. My kids don't think I'm that cool, so I appreciate it. But good evening, everyone. Hopefully we can turn down a little bit of echo here. Good to see everybody. I was just talking when I got here today that I forget how to act in front of people, so I apologize right now. It's been like 2 years since I've done anything, I feel like, in person with people. But it's really great to see everyone here tonight. So So a little bit more about myself. I'm with Merrill Lynch. I really focus on working with tech entrepreneurs with their exits, right? So I'm in the middle of $2 billion worth of transaction. It's not transaction proceeds. That's actual dollars coming to the people that I'm dealing with right now. Anywhere from a wearables company, to really heavy tech, to even logistics companies, right? So all over the board, and that's what I feel like is a really cool part of my job, is I get to see how people do it, how the sausage is made, and can hopefully pass along some of the insights that I get through that process with people. But, tonight, it's not about me, it's about these folks here tonight. So, Nandan, I'm really excited to have you here. We've met, long distance over time. So interested to hear about your story and some of your insights here. Trevor Smith with Atomic 6 as well, and Angela Fusaro here streaming in from Texas. Is that correct, Angela?
I split my time between Texas and Atlanta.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's good to see you all. But instead of me introducing you, I'm going to let ladies first here. Angela, tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, Physician 360, and give us some information here to the audience. Did you hear me? Angela, can you hear me okay?
And now,
Okay, great. What I was saying is introduce yourself, because I won't do your introduction as well as you will. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
yeah, can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Yes, I lost audio for a second, but I saw everyone start looking around, so I was like, I think this is my moment. So, I'm Angela Fusaro. I'm co-founder and CEO of Physician 360. I am an emergency medicine physician who got frustrated with how inefficient our healthcare system is, and I started our company to reimagine the practice of urgent care. So what we do is we have created a virtual care platform, and we take that into community pharmacies and empower them with that digital tool, along with private label rapid test kits for simple conditions like strep and flu. And in doing that, we essentially transform them from places where patients just pick up medications to care destinations where they can actually walk in to a pharmacy without an appointment, take a test, interact with the doctor on their smartphone, and walk out of that same pharmacy with a treatment in 30 minutes. So we've had market launch at the end of 2018. We were testing and treating for time-sensitive conditions before COVID. We're able to parlay that expertise into playing a meaningful role in the pandemic. And it was around that time that I was introduced to the Thai community, who participated in one of our rounds of funding and really helped us, as we're going to talk about tonight, with some of our growth in figuring out our product market fit. So thanks so much for having me tonight. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Angela. So Trevor, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, and how you're here.
Hello? Okay. So I heard about Ty, 2 weeks ago. So thank you guys for having me. Our wonderful attorney, Nita, with Taylor English, I think sponsors this event. She's been a phenomenal resource for us. So she was like, hey, I think you might be a good fit. Why don't you come out? So here I am. And my wife knew about you guys. Who knows? But anyway, happy to be here. So Trevor Smith, I'm the president and CEO of Atomic 6. We are a startup that is in advanced manufacturing for composites, and we specialize in space, aerospace, hypersonics, and ballistics. So I'll give you a couple of examples. We're making parts for rocket payload fairings like SpaceX and ABL space systems and launcher and that sort of thing. On the hypersonic side, we're looking at hypersonic missiles, hypersonic aircraft that travel Mach 5 or faster. That's I think it's 3,800 miles an hour, something like that. Just high-performance aerospace, so like the F-35, the F-22 aircraft that you see flying around today, maybe in Ukraine as a topical reference. And then ballistics, so stopping ammunitions. So composites can do a lot of different things. They can make cell phone cases, they can stop bullets, and they can be on the front of rockets. But we make the most structural, load-bearing, critical, harsh environment composites where you need lightweight, high performance payload capacity sort of things. So the applications are really endless. But as a startup, you kind of have to focus on what you need to get off the ground, and those four are space, aerospace, hypersonics, and ballistics. So we're prepping for our Series A. We've got a lot of traction, and we made a big announcement today. Maybe we'll talk about it later, but we're making a pretty unique part for an unmanned fighter jet. So I'll leave it as a teaser.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Trevor. Nandan, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you got a great introduction from Sid earlier, but give us a little bit more detail on yourself.
Yeah, so good evening, firstly, and thank you for coming out. It's nice to be out, isn't it? Meeting people, it's kind of cool. So thanks. I've been in Atlanta for 20 years. I've been very fortunate to have been involved in 3 startups and 2 exits. I won't talk about the third one that much. The Thai ecosystem is very close to my heart. So when Sid called me and said, hey, would you be free to kind of do this, I said, absolutely. The Thai ecosystem has been super helpful in the growth of my businesses that I was involved in. But more importantly, I've met some really cool and fun people. I've recruited out of this group. I've been recruited from this group. So you're affiliated to a fairly special group. And I think the more you come, the more you experience it, the more you'll hopefully get the benefits that I got. I've been in fintech for almost 15 years. I was actually in fintech when it was called transaction processing, so I'm dating myself. So it's super cool. Everyone wants to be in fintech. In my days, it was transaction processing, and not many people wanted to do it. So I've had the fortune of making a ton of mistakes and learning from those mistakes. I hope to share some of those with you today. I had a really fun run at Fiserv. As an entrepreneur, to last in a company that's acquired you for 4 years is unusual. My wife clearly thought that I was getting lazy, so she's like, oh, you're just turning into one of those corporate executives, and you're not going to kind of do anything more fun than this. But it really wasn't that. They really created an entrepreneurial environment within a 40,000-person company, and I really had fun. I ran e-commerce for them. This has really been kind of my space and my passion. And then a company that's listed in Australia that's in Buy Now, Pay Later called me and said, our company's really broken, and we need a turnaround person, and it's going to be really hairy, and it's going to be really difficult. What do you think? You want to become CEO? And I said, hell yes, because at my age, like, I've seen a lot, so being in an environment where I can, hopefully leave a legacy is what I'm trying to do. What we do is just 30 more seconds. Sorry about the long intro.
No, go for it.
30 more seconds. What we do is really special. There's $3 trillion worth of credit out in the U.S. That credit is on your credit card. So most people don't hit their max every month, and many people pay their credit card off every month. That $3 trillion worth of credit is unused. So what we're doing is we're unlocking that $3 trillion worth of credit for consumers to make payments at their merchants and then put those payments on installments. So if you've ever heard of Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay, and others, that's kind of the category we're in. You're never going to see us because we're the Intel inside. So we're a pure white label platform and infrastructure that unlocks existing credit. The key benefit of that is the consumer experience is the most elegant in the industry. And number 2, our write-offs are almost zero because we're using credit that's available on the credit rails today. And last but not least, for the merchant, we're not stealing their consumers and trying to cross-sell competing brands to them. So that's what we do.
Perfect. I'm glad you said it, so I wouldn't have to ask you that. It's fantastic. So, so let's go back to Angela here. One of the things, we're going to get into product market fit, but of course, being a finance guy, I got to understand a little bit about, you've raised some money. Talk about how you went about that, just for some people in the audience that might be needing to do that or looking to do it. How did you go about it, and what did you learn through that process? And I'm going to go down the line with each of you, and then if you could talk a little bit, even going back to the day if you raised capital, your process and kind of how you went about it. Did you hear me, Angela?
I did.
Okay.
So we've raised, will start with that as a learning. You know, the funding landscape, I mean, it's changing all of the time, but I really do think in the last few years it's changed so quickly that especially within within digital health, what might have been considered a average check size, for example, for something like a seed round a few years ago is now more like a pre-seed. So I think one of the things I definitely learned through the process, and I'll get back to exactly how we did it, but is just we have to obviously stay close to the pulse of what's going on in the market, because I think setting expectations of your company for investors is one of the critical pieces to funding success. Obviously, if you're going to investors who, raising a quote-unquote Series A, but you're really more, market ready for a seed, that's going to lead to dissonance and failure and frustration. So I think for us, we've raised, a pre-seed. In the near future, we'll raise a seed. I would say that most of the conversations that I was having around that effort were through some type of network effect. So it was, we were not pursuing that liquid capital, so I was not in pursuit of grant funding. This was all price equity and convertible notes. And most of that came from angel networks and a venture capitalist. Again, all of those initial conversations through some type of network I was a part of. So, TIE is an example of one, but I was also part of an accelerator program and, a few other founder communities. And the benefit there, not just to the access, it's the other founders who value your process act as great qualifiers. So the learning curve that they may have experienced can just, help shorten the process and make the process for other founders like myself more efficient. So we were, like I said, very focused on, if you will, traditional capital. And I would say that knowing who to target, when to target them, and exactly what metrics they'd be looking for as far as each stage of that process were fundamental.
Angela, before we move on from you, you mentioned that Ty helped you. In what capacity was Ty able to help you a little bit with that?
So we had raised the initial part of that round as price equity, and that was right before COVID. And then, obviously, no one anticipated that the pandemic would happen and that it would be for us so directly relevant. So there was a lot of growth opportunity that came to us because of COVID specifically. So at that point, we essentially extended a bridge round to address those particular growth opportunities, and that was the point in which Ty got involved. I participated in the Access program in 2020, and so that was, really fundamental in helping us, one, capitalize on those growth opportunities, but as you're going through those growth opportunities, again, in the setting of the market changing so quickly, and so specifically because of COVID, and this is what we're here to discuss tonight, product market fit and what that looks like changes. So the capital that they provided us really gave us not just opportunity for the growth, but also opportunity for the learning, which set us up nicely for the next round.
Very cool. Thanks so much. Now, Trevor, you got a little bit different story. So tell us a little bit about your capital raise and kind of how you went through that process.
Sure. So we didn't go, I don't think, call it what you want. I don't think we had a pre-seed. Right. Like Angela said, it's, call it what it is. But I personally funded the company for the first 3 years doing R&D just because I had the ability to do that. So bootstrap, like everybody you hear say, bootstrap as long as you can until it makes sense to press the gas pedal, right? So we bootstrapped till we hit a certain milestone, and that milestone was getting the attention of engineers at Lockheed or Northrop or insert defense prime. So we then opened up the first round, and it was friends and family, and we're like, okay, what's the smallest amount we can raise to get us, off the ground and give us like a 2-year runway, really a 3-year runway, because we're in material science and what you would call hard tech. And, our milestones don't happen in 6 or 8 months. It's year and a half. But if you're really good and lucky, sometimes they happen a little quicker. So that's how we pitched our first round. But to your point, there are programs that the government has that are called well, lots of names, but like SBIR, STTR. SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research. And so going back to what I just mentioned earlier today, we were making an announcement. We just won our second phase 2 SBIR, and that's a $750,000 contract to develop, call it minimum viable product for the Air Force. And not necessarily for the Air Force, because they're not really our end customer. We are a subcomponent supplier, kind of like you mentioned white labeling. We are white labeling for a Lockheed or a Boeing or whatever, so they're paying to develop subcomponents on the government's dime that help us bring up our technology, pay for our people, and get customer traction without dilutive funding, right? So we have 2 phase 2s. That's, I don't know, I'm bad at math, but 1.5 million. And then they have phase 1s that are anywhere from 50 to 150,000. But they're, somewhat, I say easy to get if you have some really attractive technology. The phase 1s are relatively easy to get. Phase 2s is when you start hitting your stride and people pay attention to you. And so today, we announced our second phase 2 with Kratos Defense. Kratos is a defense contractor. They've got an unmanned aerial drone that is basically like an F-35. It's an unmanned fighter jet, and we're making a part for that aircraft. And if we can make the part better, cheaper, faster, or all the above, we'll get into like a program of record, and those can be, no bid contracts up to $100 million. So you talk about non-dilutive, easy tracks. Like, and during our conversation yesterday, you don't have to be making missiles and rocket parts to get this government funding. You could have a healthcare application. You could have a logistics application. Most of the companies that were in our cohorts weren't like material science companies. They were companies who were helping solve just business issues that the government has. Like, how do we get men and women of our Air Force over to this base logistically in a good way or efficiently, or how do we communicate better? How do we make our satellites communicate faster? So there's so many applications. We just happen to be like kind of nail in the head. We're making missiles and rockets and that kind of thing. But like the application, I'm sure there are people in the audience tonight that have it's called dual application or dual use. So you have a commercial and a defense use. But a lot of startups just don't think about it that way. And you can leverage government funding to get your technology off the ground, do customer discovery, and innovate on someone else's dime without having to like have dilution, which has been critical for our company. So yeah. I'll stop there.
No worries. So how did you find out about this? I mean, did you just go on Google and, or did you find out, how do you find that, right?
I actually can't remember. I think it might have been some Googling. There's a lot of Googling with every startup, I'm sure. As we all know, there's lots of Googling if you're trying to do something that no one's ever done before. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, okay. SBIR.gov, STTR, NASA's got one. Every branch of the military literally has like a R&D budget, and you can apply for topics that they're interested in. And if your technology fits in that topic, they'll fund you. And they even have open topics. Like the Air Force just says, here's an open topic. If you have a technology that you think's interesting, give it to us, and maybe we'll fund it. So it's a great way to leverage a startup.
Yeah. No, very cool. Before we go on, I know you brought some product. I mean, do you want to show us a little bit of your show and tell here?
You told me to bring it, so.
Yeah, of course. We like props.
Yeah. So we have a process, not a material or a fabric or anything. We have a proprietary process to make composites. So this is a ballistic panel made with a thermoplastic resin system, which is a recyclable resin system, and e-glass. So kind of like fiberglass, but it's 3D woven. And this is a 9mm full metal jacket. So our first attempt, we stopped a 9mm full metal jacket, which is NIJ level 2A, threat protection. And we weren't even trying to optimize it. We ended up doing it 15% lighter weight and about 15% thinner panel than the military spec called for. So we have some pretty unique vehicle, ground, ballistic applications. We're looking at helicopter blade, ballistics, like all sorts of just stopping, projectiles. And then this one, I can't name the customer, but you would know them immediately. They're a large automotive OEM, which is strange because they have a unique division that is pursuing future vehicles. But this is actually a monocoque chassis for a Mars rover or lunar rover. Hold it up. Oh, sorry. Where's the? Is this it? Yeah. So we can't name it publicly, but you can hold. Yeah, it's pretty lightweight. But to do a geometry like this in a carbon fiber composite part is extremely complex. So normally when you see a composite part, it's like a wing skin, a spoiler, a hood, kind of smooth orientation. This is really complex geometry, and this was the very first non-government customer project we had, and they actually debuted this at a conference in Seoul, South Korea, at an aerospace and defense conference. But we're excited about that. The next version will be 9 feet long and 5 feet wide, so it'll be a manned version, but it's used for military reconnaissance and/or lunar and Mars, expeditions. But it's just I bring it because it's a unique geometry, unique application for composites.
Okay, very cool, nice. So Nandan, going way back, right? So we're going to go back in the Wayback Machine for you here. First of all, did you raise capital back in the day? I mean, the capital markets and investors, right? Probably very different environment than it is today, right? What was that like, and how did you go about it?
Yeah, so I didn't bring any props. That's pretty cool.
Thank you. That's all I got.
You got a lot more.
Good night.
I like makers. This is very cool. We're going to talk later. That's my prop. Thank you.
There's one right there.
So I think there are three things. I'm kind of fortunate now, hanging out with Sid. I do some angel investing, and I've started to kind of look at founders and entrepreneurs in a very different way because I'm on the other side of the wall. So I think in threes, and I'm very simple. I'm not smart as Trevor. So for me, it's people, so the team, the story, and the product. So when I think about an investment, I'm thinking about those three things. And for me, the calibration has got to be, two of those three things have got to be fairly strong. So if you think about both the entrepreneurs that you see today, they're super credible because they come from the industry that they're innovating in. To me, that's a phenomenal marker. Now, I don't know your team, but hopefully they'll assemble the right caliber of team. Because a good team can make a really shitty idea very successful, as we all know. So I think team is super important. Number two is kind of the story. And I think a lot of people miss this. You may have a brilliant idea. So the company that I'm working on right now, they've got a brilliant idea. They just could never tell the story. It was too confusing. It was too complicated. There were too many facets. They were getting into the bowels of the payments industry. No one cares. So learn how to tell your story in a very simple, articulate way that an investor that doesn't know your industry can get it. And then the third thing is the product. You've got to have a little bit of okay, I've got a great story, I've got a great team. Let me tell you about the product. Even better, let me show you the product. So for me, until you have those three things kind of figured out, don't even worry about raising money. Because once you get those three figured out, in my humble opinion, the money will pour in. There are a ton of investors that want to invest in you. So if you're starting your entrepreneurial journey thinking about raising capital, maybe rethink that. Maybe think about the three things that I mentioned. And then once you get two of those three things right, you'll be shocked at how easy it is to raise money. You shouldn't be spending your time thinking about raising money. You should be spending your time building Mars rovers.
Thank you. That's great advice from someone who's done it. So that's fantastic. I'm going to come back to you, Angela. Hopefully you can hear me. It sounds like you can. So a couple questions, right? What does product market fit look like for you? And I'm going to tag on another question for you, specifically just healthcare, right? So you obviously have a background in the healthcare industry. How tough is it to navigate the healthcare space, right, from a business perspective. Just curious about that, because it seems like maybe some behavioral changes, right, may be occurring in your space. And so just curious what your thoughts are on that. Angela, hang in there. Don't go to the light. Okay. Well, I'll go to you then, Trevor, while we're trying to get Angela back online here. What does product market fit look like for you?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, the best application for us is harsh environment, critical, just super payload efficient. So where does that end up, right? So we early on, our very first meeting, and I love this, we thought we were going to be consultants. And we met with Mickey Truck Bodies. They make truck bodies for a lot of the 18-wheelers that you guys see on the road today. And so we pitched them. We're like, hey, we know how to make carbon fiber, blah, blah, blah. They didn't want to invest $10 million in a facility to make their own carbon fiber parts. So we're like, quickly, that didn't work out. But we kind of zeroed in on what is the best application, right? So if you need the absolute best, like if you are the insert Lamborghini, Pagani, whatever, like the most harsh environment, the most extreme, Formula One's a great example. Like if you need the best thing ever, where is it? It's space, it's aerospace, it's things that are traveling multiple speeds of the sound. Like it's all those things. So like, okay, cool, let's focus in on that. And we have hit a grand slam home run. Like we have way more traction than we can handle because we figured out where our application is used best. It's not cell phone cases. I mean, like, literally the president of North America of Aston Martin was like, hey, can you make a part for our car? And I was like, that sounds cool, right? Like, a lot of startups could get distracted on a cool application, but that's not the highest and best use, right? So I'd rather go make a payload fairing for a rocket than a spoiler on an Aston Martin. Even though they're both cool and sexy, the best and highest use is that rocket payload fairing, just for what we do. So that's kind of how we zoned in on product market fit. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's great, including bulletproof
right? Like, yeah,
planks, right?
You want the best thing if there's a bullet coming at you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Have we gotten Angela back? All right, Angela, so we're back. Can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you're good. Can you hear me? Nope, poor Angela. So we'll come back to you here with AccuLink. What did product market fit look like for you? And I'm curious about Split It too, right? It's really interesting concept. So curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so before I kind of dive into the details, I think, at least for me, product market fit is all about prioritization and stacking the deck to ensure that you have maximum success. And let me explain that. It's very easy as an entrepreneur, especially a CEO, to kind of go all over the place. And whoever listens to you, you'd be like, okay, that's going to be my first customer. Next guy that listens to you, that's going to be my first customer. Doesn't work. So the only way to be scaled quickly, I think, is to prioritize your market and align your product to that market. So once you figure out that prioritization, what you've done is you stack the deck in your favor because you're not wasting time. You're not going all over the place. You're giving yourself the best chance to execute and drive growth and scale for your company. So trust me, I've got this wrong multiple times. So I should probably talk about where I've got it wrong. That's going to be a lot more interesting. So AccuLink was a very unique technology for e-commerce that optimized the cost of card payments. So what we did was we took card payments that could go on the credit rails and sent them to the debit rails to significantly reduce the cost for very, very large merchants. So you would assume that the first merchant that we pick had high debit usage. The first merchant that we got into, because one of my board members had a relationship with that merchant, was American Airlines. Guess what? American Airlines has less than 20% debit. Rest of it's credit card. It took us 2 years to implement, and I made $30,000 a year after that in revenue because I didn't figure out product market fit. So I'll just leave it there.
Great story. Angela, we got you back, right? Can we hear you? Oh, she's up. Yes, she's back. Thank you. Yay.
Hey.
So getting back to, I'm not sure if you heard my question or not. So what does product market fit look like for you?
For us, our primary customer is a community pharmacy. So we're selling products and services to a community pharmacy, and that pharmacy is then using those tools to sell clinical services to a patient. So we have a B2B2C model. For us, product market fit really was about moving the needle primarily with the pharmacy first. So, and that actually, when I say that, that fit changed over time because of, honestly, because of COVID and our lens through COVID. So initially, it was about identifying that there was, no one offering, again, on-demand clinical care at the pharmacy, and we did that initially in the form of a test kit, right? So we're selling test kits to the pharmacy primarily. When I looked at, are we achieving product market fit, I was measuring metrics like, you know, what is our revenue? Like, how quickly are we bringing on a pharmacy customer? What does their sell-through look like? And we achieved that with the test kit model pre-COVID. We moved into COVID, and there was, COVID was for us a headwind and a tailwind. But the portion that was a bit of a headwind was that now everyone had eyes wide open to the fact that, oh, there's a better way to kind of do this. We can do home testing. We can do testing in places that are more convenient, like my neighborhood pharmacy. And so with all of these new entrants into the market, that really changed the landscape, the competitive landscape of what, what value were we delivering to the pharmacy. So for us, then, we really, at that point, we made a pretty significant pivot. And we said, okay, of all the things that that physical test kit represents, right, the actual testing materials, the connection to the doctor, of all of it, what is delivering the most value to the pharmacy and therefore to the patient? Because that's the part that we're going to double down on. And then we're going to make sure we have product market fit with that specific part of our platform. So I would say that for us, we started out with a platform, with a process, with a product offering that was much more broad. And then because of what changed in the marketplace, we had to really circle back and say, what's the most value add? And let's achieve product market fit with that. And so when we did that, we're still looking at some of those same metrics, like, can we bring on pharmacies, quicker and quicker? Do we have use cases in different community settings where this is resonating that we can, replicate as we go to other communities that look like that one? But I think it was really about constantly saying, are we delivering something that there's still a demand for, that's differentiated enough from competitors, and that people will pay, that our customers will pay for?
That's great. Kind of a tag on from something that Nandan said. Has your revenue model shifted, as your business has evolved, right? Have you had to pivot a little bit with that, saying, I had this product, I was charging X, and maybe that's not as profitable as doing Y. Talk about that. Have you had to do that?
Yes. So when we first launched, again, our market launch was really around a physical product, and that had a traditional, wholesale, retail business model. Once we realized that the biggest value that our entire platform offered to pharmacies and offered to patients was the on-demand connection to the doctor. It was the pharmacy's ability to document clinical information about a patient and push it in real time to a doctor. As soon as we realized that, it made sense for us to really beef up our software platform, and we transitioned at that time the business model as well. So we went to a recurring revenue model, which, so we sell our software as SaaS. So those two things definitely went hand in hand.
Yeah, no, that's great. Hopefully that gives some insight to some folks listening in. I want to make sure, I know we're coming up on some time here, that we take some questions from the audience, right? and also from Zoom. So I want to make sure I do that. Is there a way to do that, Sebastian? I don't know where I would get the questions from, but if you want to take some questions, maybe? Oh, okay.
Okay, we have a few from online right now. So the first one is actually for you, Angela. Angela, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, perfect. So will your company have an opportunity to boost your market presence with President Biden's announcement of wanting people that come to a pharmacy/doctor for testing, if that makes sense?
It does. So there, just to give everyone a little context, there, and you guys can hear me. Thumbs up. Okay. There was a recent announcement that the president is looking to, and we've been doing this throughout the pandemic. We've really been relying on community pharmacies to be a safety net. So we're driving people there. They rolled out some of the earliest testing programs in the country. They were the vaccine administrators for the country. So we've been relying on our pharmacy network, and President Biden has essentially said, we really want people to go to these pharmacies to be tested for COVID and to be treated for COVID specifically. Part of the challenge there is that pharmacists don't have prescriptive authority to treat patients with antiviral medication. And so I saw today on LinkedIn a lot of pharmacy associations essentially saying, we'd love to help out, but you're not giving us the scope of practice to actually do this in a meaningful way. So as that relates back to Physician 360, this is literally like our entire value proposition. The fact that we give pharmacists a way to document test results, for example, in this case, a COVID test result, in a HIPAA compliant platform, push it in real time to one of our doctors who does have prescriptive authority to say, write COVID treatment. And then essentially the patient can be e-prescribed a medication within minutes. That is the epitome of the value that we offer to pharmacies. So while there's different ways to accomplish this goal, one has to do with advocacy and policy change. Maybe one day the scope of practice of a pharmacist will change. In the meantime, our company is delivering that exact value and allowing pharmacies everywhere to offer test and treat opportunities for patients. So yes, this will be a big opportunity for us to really shine.
Awesome, great answer. Thank you so much, Angela. Okay, so I think this is for the whole panel, so jump in where applicable. This is from Karen online. She says, I know SBIR is a good test for investors on market value and a way to get funding without giving up equity. Is it also a good measure of commercial market fit? Who would like to answer that?
I'm guessing you want me to take that one.
Yeah, you got that one, buddy.
Do you know about SBI? Okay, yeah, all right. So I think the question was like, how do you leverage this to get VCs behind you or investors behind you, right? So a phase one, I mentioned, for lack of better words, they kind of give that out like a candy, right? Like the Air Force has the biggest budget for this, which is why we applied for that. It's like over $1 billion a year for R&D. So $50,000 credit, $50,000 gift card for 3 months of work. Basically, you're cold calling them. That's not really going to give you traction with an investor. Oh, we won a phase one. Good job. That's not really that big of a deal. A phase two, that's when you're making a part and someone is like signing off and saying, we want to see this product. Like, we want to see it. The Air Force is going to spend near $1 million just to see like a part. That's when the VC who backed us in our first round got excited. So Iron Gate Capital, they're a defense-focused VC firm who just invests in national security companies. When we got that phase two, like, we locked them in. Ish, right? Like, took them a couple more months, but they came in. Yeah. So phase ones, that's nice, but like, if you get a phase two, that's really going to start changing the mindset of your VCs. And then, phase three, like, you have a TACFI and a StratFi in between those, so those are a different conversation. You can Google all that. But a phase two is where you start to get traction from investors. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, it's Karen, so hopefully it answered Karen's question. Okay, So I think we have another question, right? Okay, from Karen again. She said, I'd like to hear Angela's perspective. So Angela, thumbs up if you can still hear us. Yes? Okay, perfect. She says, clearly the consumer wants the convenience, but how was the process to determine if doctor/urgent care/pharmacy mobile clinics would adopt your solution as a startup? Good question.
So we did a lot of, part of it was just feedback, right? We put the platform into the market, and then it's that ongoing conversation that you have, customer discovery with them. We were keeping track too of some of the metrics that I mentioned earlier. If our sales cycle is going down, if our cost of acquisition is going down, some of these very objective measures of is it becoming easier for us to sell into our customers gave us the feedback and the confidence that yes, this is something that they really find value in. I will say we did, because every community pharmacy is a little bit different, or at least they fall into a couple of, maybe a dozen prototypes as far as the demographics they serve or the communities that they serve. We did try to reach out and create, a testimonial and a use case around each of those different prototypes, so that when we saw success in, let's say, the community pharmacy that's in rural America and serving a population whose priority is access, we can kind of take that story, as we talked about earlier, it's really important to have that story, take that story and then go to all of the other community pharmacies that fit that prototype and leverage that for sales there. So I think part of it was really just, the hustle and the grit of customer discovery, and then making sure that feedback was objective and measurable, so that we could, stay on track.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. Okay, we don't have any more questions from our virtual audience right now, so I'm going to open it up to everybody here in the room. Okay, Preeti.
You said you'd have a lot of questions, so this is good.
Well,
Glad
here's
you're
the
following
first
through.
one. So thank you so much. That is very, very informative. So thank you to all. Very first question. Today itself, I came to know SBIR, our product and Mercy Learning applies to that. So my question to you is, did you hire another grant writer to get that 750K or what that first 50K? Because we know what the product, the story, and the team, all three I got. But in order to get that funding, what help did you take to get that funding?
So do we hire consultants to help us get that? Mm-hmm. Is that the question? Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I aspire to do your highest and best use, right? So I've never submitted a SBIR phase 1 contract before I did, but I had known nothing about it. So we, through one of our VCs, they're like, hey, we know a great SBIR shop, consultants, that will help you. So there's a retainer fee and a success fee, and I will give you a perfect tangible example. So 2021, last year, I spent $57,000 in SBIR consulting, which is retaining and success fee, and I got $996,000 out of it. Who wouldn't do that? Who in this room wouldn't do that, right? So if you want to be introduced to our consultants, I'll happily plug them. But they were amazing. So I gave them all the data, all the hardcore data and all the technical stuff, the world-changing things that we can do, and they put it in a format that the Air Force can understand. Because that's not my highest and best use, that's theirs. So for a reasonable fee, I absolutely suggest doing that. But if you don't have the budget, you can do it. I've seen it done. A friend of mine did it on his own, and he got selected. So you don't have to have consultants, but I chose to go that route.
And follow up to that, time. How much time those consultants took to get that funding?
Depends on the phase 1 versus phase 2. So
phase 2.
Phase 2, right? So phase 2 is a little more in depth. I would say, probably 40 hours all in on my side, and then maybe 10 hours of cumulative gathering the data and making it look pretty, for lack of better words, on the consultant side. But they clearly earned every penny that we paid them, and some. right? And even the guy who owns the Cyber consultancy wrote me a check after our phase 2. He's like, you guys got a phase 2, I'm coming in. Like, this makes sense. So like he said, every company we help that gets a phase 2, he writes a check to. I didn't know that, but he came in because he believed in the technology. So I highly encourage companies to go after consultants to help them get that CIBR or STTR dollar. Yeah.
Trevor, this is also for you. I've actually applied for a couple SBIRs myself for some drones that we're developing. So we applied for one that was a direct to phase 2. Is that what you did, or did you start with a phase 1, it was successful, and they moved you to a phase 2? And then I do have a follow-up.
So that's a great question, and those of you who are familiar with the process might know what he's saying. So you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. There are opportunities to go what's called direct to phase 2. So if you already know your customer within the military, whatever branch it is, there are direct to phase 2 topics that you can apply for. The phase 2s that we have won today came through a phase 1 transition, but we just submitted for a direct to phase 2 on hypersonics. We think we got a good shot at it, but for odds, like if you're like just trying to measure the odds, it is easier to get a phase 2 through a transition than a direct to phase 2. There's way more competition doing direct to phase 2s. So if you can get into phase 1 and you have patience, it's a lot easier to get a phase 2 that way than direct to phase 2. Does that answer?
Absolutely, thank you. And follow up to that. So when you're looking for the SBIRs that are relevant to you, is that something you are doing, someone on your team is doing, or you talk to that consultant company and you say, hey, this is what we specialize in, and they even help you find the applicable SBIRs?
So it's all of the above. It depends on your company size. There are companies that we compete against. They have employees that their entire job is to do CIBR, CIBR submissions. We're a 5-person operation full-time, so like I'm a part of that. But luckily, you can hop on their website. They have a keyword search, and you can go, hey, carbon fiber, and then there's like 5 topics that pop up, or like lightweight, material science, whatever it is. So it's easy to kind of find topics, whether it's the consultants or us.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hey, can you hear me out there in Zoom land? Okay, great. So how do you sell SaaS to pharmacies? Do you walk in the door? Do you hire a sales team? How do you go about that?
Wonderful question. Back in the day, it was me, blood, sweat, and tears walking into pharmacies. That was the beginning of the journey. As we got, I would say more of a presence in the pharmacy community, and part of how we built that presence wasn't necessarily related directly to SaaS. Again, it was fortuitous in the sense that we had just started. We were looking to make, to build a brand, to make name recognition for ourselves, and then COVID hit, and we honestly, we took some risk at the beginning to be one of the first companies to offer testing opportunities for community pharmacy. And so we really positioned ourselves at that point as thought leaders in that space. And because no one knew anything about the pandemic or about COVID, everyone was looking for information. We became, I think that was really probably pivotal to us, at least having brand recognition within that community. Once that started and we got that established and then kind of settled, we evolved from building off of that traction. We evolved from me hustling into pharmacies to we do have a small but mighty internal sales team. And what they've really done, in addition to just an outbound sales funnel that we have perfected over time, is really start to leverage partnerships with 3 major types of organizations. So one is just pharmacy associations, like professional associations. The other is group purchasing organizations. So a lot of these pharmacies will band together into somewhere between 500 and 1,000 of them so that they can purchase medications and other supplies at a cost. So group purchasing organizations and then regional wholesalers. So by partnering with those groups and essentially saying to them, listen, you're great at offering advocacy, or you're great at offering medications at a good price, but you don't know anything about digital health, and that is the future of your industry. We've been able to leverage the existing relationships those organizations have with pharmacies
next.
So I have a two-part question here. Can you guys hear me? Oh, there we go. So I have a two-part question. The first one is, I think this is something that we learned the hard way, which is there's a difference between problem-solution fit and product-market fit. And, you know, it's really easy to get a customer to say, this is a problem that's important to me. But it's especially difficult for pre-launch companies to measure product market fit when they're sure that there's a problem that exists, but they're not sure whether the product actually solves that problem meaningfully. So how do you guys think about measuring product market fit pre-launch?
So I'll take that. It's the toughest question. It's a guy from Stanford. So
Yeah, good luck.
clearly, even though he hasn't finished, the smartest question tonight. I think it's really hard. And I think it's really hard because there are so many variables that you don't know. So if I were to kind of intellectually think about it, I would go by feedback and the numbers. So if you're pre-launch, and let's say you want to do an MVP pre-launch, and let's say you've got 4 customers that you're going to do an MVP with, the adoption rate at those customers in solving the problem that you think you're solving and measuring that, and then mapping that back to whether your customers felt that you made a difference in terms of automation, in terms of simplification, whatever your kind of asset is in terms of coming to fruition with them. I think the second thing is, as you mature a little bit from there, it becomes a little easier, and that's where there are a variety of different metrics that you can measure, everything from net margin to the number of, in your case, the number of problems you automatically found that was solved and the speed of solution. But I think it's very tough, and I think it's very dependent on each innovation that you're trying to launch.
That's a really eloquent way to answer that question, and I'm glad he went first. I'll do the down and dirty. So I thought that our customers wanted these certain performances that we could offer. Fiber, if you're an engineer, fiber volume and void content and tensile modulus and all this stuff. I'm not an engineer, by the way. So I thought that's what they wanted. And like at a surface level, that's what they thought as well. But we had the global director of military sales and strategy for Textron in our office. There's a $14 billion defense company. And he said this to me, and it like rang so true. And I'm like, now I know our value prop, right? Like our value prop is not providing lightweight, super fast, cost-efficient things. Our value prop is actually enabling our customers to win bids over their competitors because they are supplying something, the performances that we give, that no one else can give, right? So like the value prop is them winning massive freaking contracts because they can offer something that their competitors don't. And I didn't know that until like 2 months ago. And we're like a 4-year-old company. Like it just continues to iterate. But I think that's the value prop now that we were pitching our customers, is we are enabling them to win things that they just will hands down beat their competitors at.
Angela, you got that one?
Yeah, put me in, coach. I'm ready to so I think pre-launch is a lot about figuring out your customer's priorities, because unless you or your team is like completely off track, which most people are not, you've identified, like you said, something where there's a problem and there's a solution. So you're in the arena. So then felt like we were on course. And I think the other thing that we learned through that process was you'll start to hear different, again, in our case it's pharmacies, different types of pharmacies have different types of goals. And so we were able to really then sub-segment the entire market to say, okay, what we're offering pre-launch is never going to be a priority for these types of pharmacies, but it is for these types. And then it was just saying, are there enough of these types of pharmacies to make enough market potential to, to justify a business model and a market launch? So I guess pre-launch, I would say the best way to determine, the best marker for us of what would eventually be product market fit was about finding the subsegment of customer that had a need, it was enough of a priority for us.
Great, thank you, Angela. Do we have any other questions, Maya?
We have time for one more question. Anybody have a question?
This is for Trevor. What does STTR stand for?
What is what?
SBIR?
The other program, not SBIR, STTR?
STTR. So there are two, SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research, and then STTR is Small Technology Transfer something. But really the difference between the two, SBIR means it's 100% your company doing the contract. STTR, you have to have a partner with a nonprofit or a university. So we have a phase 2 STTR, and we're building parts for the International Space Station, but our partner is the University of South Carolina. And so they help you, they're at least 30% partner in that contract. And so we do things with the university with that contract. So that's really the big difference. You have to partner with someone on an STTR, and then the SBIR, SIBR, is just your company 100%. I think that probably answered, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's give a big round of applause for our panel. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Angela, for zooming in and being with us today. Hopefully you can still hear us. If you guys have questions, these guys will be around a little bit longer. Tom, I want to give a special shout out to you, and thanks for sponsoring us here at TIE Atlanta. We have a few other sponsors in the house too. I know I've seen Taylor English here tonight. Thank you for sponsoring us. TriNet's here tonight too, somewhere. Yes, thank you for being a sponsor. We have a couple other sponsors here too, I think. Thank you guys so much. Stay, enjoy, network with our panelists. Again, thank you guys. We appreciate it. Our next event is March 23rd. It will be at Aprio, which is right down the road. It's for members only. So if you're interested in becoming a member, let us know. We will continue on the entrepreneurial journey. And it's a workshop that will be held again at Aprio and led by them. So again, have a great night and thanks for coming.
Nice work.
Good job, man.
Yeah, thank you, you too, yeah. Good job. Angela, nice job. I don't know if you can hear me.
Good job, Angela.